we're now going to get into part 7 of Life 3.0. And with this one, Max says that the thorniest artificial intelligence controversies are about goals. And he kind of uses a physics perspective and tells us that there are basically two fundamental goals in physics. One is what he calls, what I'm calling actually causality, whereas the past causes the future. And that's a process. And we'll deal with that a little bit in part 8 when we deal with consciousness. But the other one is optimization, and it's really about ends, and it's also a process issue, but this is the one that's mainly focused on goals. Nature optimizes based upon certain goals. And this is he talks about, it kind of builds this structure that says you basically have this ultimate goal. And the ultimate goal breaks down into sub-goals and sub-goals. And these, though, he talks about, these are instrumental goals. So in philosophical terms, I would think of these as more like the means to the ends, if you will. And the means have their own goals inside of them. And this whole thing is based, he is very much a hierarchical, and he believes a lot in cosmic hierarchy. So that a lot of what he talks about comes that way. But he also talks about how goals improve with an increase in intelligence. And so basically, as intelligence increases, the goals get better. But we don't really talk about whose intelligence is increasing here, whether it's all of us or just certain people. And then he talks about, but he also talks about there are some limits just on human intelligence itself. So as a species, we're restricted by the available information we get from our senses. We're restricted by the time we have to think, and we're restricted by the hardware with which we have to think. And this kind of leads us to use, from an optimization point of view, we use these heuristic goals, these rules of thumb. And these rules of thumb basically have come to be our feelings. Our feelings are the strongest rules of thumb that we use, or that nature has got us to use, that we use to make decisions. And so that they become nature's optimization drivers, our feelings. And so then from there, he kind of moves on to this idea that culture, though, is that it's different from the biology's optimization goals. So when you look at biology's optimization goals of replication and dissipation and mastication and stuff like that, that they're no longer the goals for culture. The culture's goals are different. And where he goes with this is about culture's goals. It's he focus on what he feels are a common set, or some goals that are really fit into a broad consensus for all of our species. And he comes up with 4 major goals, or at least 4 major ethical principles that sit behind the goals. One is utilitarianism, the other is diversity, the third one he talks about is autonomy, and the fourth one that he covers is legacy. And the last two, autonomy and legacy, are basically also tied to the sense of democracy, bringing democratic principles into the goals. But all of these things lead us to the fact that he talks about the fact that we have to come up with some kind of way of partnering with technology. And we have to talk about putting these goals into our artifacts, because technology is going to use our artifacts to look at and to determine what our goals are. So we're kind of in a uh-oh here, and the trust is where our actions are in sync with our words. And if our real goals are utilitarianism, diversity, and the others, they're going to have to start being very prominent in our artifacts.